بخير. Good.
يلا
Let's go.
تمام.
26. Admit. Okay. Just trying to admit everybody in here. Just don't want to forget anybody. People are still coming in. We're going to start soon, guys. I just want to admit everybody so that we don't leave anybody out.
Ja, willst du bei mir schauen oder soll ich dich auch einladen? Also nicht einladen.
Can we all make sure we're muted? Thank you.
Also wir lernen nicht selber. Ist das nicht gut?
Keine Ahnung, aber der Typ hätte ich.
No, it's okay. I can just mute them. Okay, perfect. So we have. All right, I think, okay, there's somebody who wants to get in. Okay. All right, so I think it's a good time to start. I want to welcome everybody on for this Q&A session. I don't know if it's too late for everybody. I don't know how tired you guys are. I can relate. That's my roommate. So it's okay. So I just wanted to say thank you all for joining in. We want to just make sure that we cover questioning from your side. Before that, we want to just go over introducing ourselves. I have been, along with my roommates, been trying to help you guys out since the beginning. My name is Haytham, and I am a second-year student at the Medical University of Wrocław. A little background about myself: I have a previous biology degree from the University of British Columbia in Canada. I am 25 years old. I think I'm quite old compared to so many people here, but that's okay. And I have the bachelor's in biology, so I major in biology/chemistry. I wanted to study my medical degree in Canada, but didn't work out, so I had to transfer over here and come to Poland. That's me. I have also one more fact that I lived with. I currently live with Kareem and Mu'adh, and we've been living with each other since the beginning of our studies. So Kareem, it's your turn, and maybe you can tell them how we all met. That'll be cool. Mu'adh, please.
Okay, guys. So obviously, some of you have already met me. Well, saw me on a meeting. So yeah, I'm obviously not as old as this guy. I'm actually closer to you guys. I'm 20 years old, probably. But yeah, like Haytham said, ever since we started, and this is something because I've been asked this, like, why do you guys do this? You know, we struggled a lot in the first year. You know, and Haytham, having come from Canada with a biology degree, for him to be struggling is not normal. You know, and it wasn't because of how hard it is, but because of how little support you get sometimes. Okay, so we had this idea that when we're second years, we're going to try to help people as much as we can, and we can get through this. We can help other people get through this. How the three of us met actually is a bit of a funny story. I was just walking near the ED office, okay, and I saw a guy, and he looked very, very Egyptian to me, you know, because I'm Egyptian, obviously. So I thought I'd go talk to him. I introduced myself, and anyways, turns out that's Muaz. And in the same day, we went to pick up Haytham from the airport.
Yeah.
So that's how I met Haytham. And the day after, we all moved in together. So yeah, and then we all got to know each other more.
Exactly. This is how life can be. You expose situations, and then you meet people. You have those judgments inside your brain, and you see like what kind of people are those. And it turns out sometimes that people are really the ones that you end up sticking up with. Um, but that's our short story. This was a quick introduction of us, and maybe in the future we can get to know each other. We want to get into this because I don't want to take most of your time. I know you guys are so tired and it's too late. Um, this session is meant to be as a form of a Q&A. So I would love it if you all can participate by unmuting yourself and asking me questions about the points that I'll be pointing at according to your syllabus. And from there, we can ask you your questions. And if there are no questions, we move on until we are able to cover all the content from the date of here, 1 October to 11th or 12th October, so that we can go over what you've taken so far and answer most of the questions that you have. Um, we are going to, however, skip um, the organization matters and the introduction to anatomical terminology, because like I think these are just terminology. You just need to know every single word, what it means and how it's used to describe certain things about points that you'll be studying in the future. Some structures, how are they situated in relation to each other. And Siliski loves you to use those words that he gives you in the beginning. So make sure you know your vocabulary really well, like something like distal, proximal. Distal is more further down, proximal is more closer up when it comes to the hand, for example, or the arm. My hand is more distal, my shoulder is more proximal. So those things you have to make sure that you know, because those are the basics that will help you make up or create your speeches related to every single point you see on the syllabus. Um, you need to articulate with your speeches because that's how he likes it. Okay?
Yeah, on this point, actually, this is very important. Uh, Sometimes some people may think, oh, well, this stuff is easy. I'm just going to skip over it. But
Yep.
knowing the terminology like the locate, anterior, posterior, lateral, medial, all this stuff is very important. And you need to know it like the back of your hand, not just to be able to answer questions, but also to understand what is being said in classes and lectures, because they use these words a lot. And if you have to look them up every time, it's very easy to get lost. And you'll be left wondering about a lot of stuff. Like
Exactly.
Haitham.
Exactly. One very important example of what Kareem just said of how I was lost once is Siriski just was jumping from one plane or one section of a body to another, and he was talking about those structures within that section, and I didn't know how to imagine it. For example, transverse section, coronal section, and sagittal section. And when you say sagittal, how is it? Okay, now I know. Okay, sagittal, I know he's cutting the brain that way. So okay, he's talking about the structure when it looks that way. Transverse the same, coronal the same. These important terminologies are important. So spend enough time and study them well. Won't take a lot, half an hour max, but make sure you're good with those. Any questions about this topic before we move on? It's this part right here. Okay, so I would assume you guys are good with this, and I will continue further. Please ask us questions because this is a Q&A session. I would love to answer any of your questions. Okay, so we're gonna get into the classification of bones. Okay, so I don't know if you've seen it here. It's on page 4. It's on the one of my videos on the YouTube on the playlist that I've posted. How do you study this, and why is it a point? And is it going to be asked on an oral issue at the final exam, or is it going to be asked as an issue in your osteology exam coming up? Many questions. So Why he gives you classification of bones is because in the future, you are going to be studying every single bone that make up the human body. And when you start explaining a bone, you would also want to know what type of bone it is. That's how you start answering this part of anatomy. So you need to know what a long bone is. So when you tell him, okay, for example, the humerus is a long bone. Why is it a long bone? What is it made up of? What does it function as a long bone? Um, this is an example of why you should mention this thing. Short bone, flat bone, irregular bone. Okay, one important thing about an irregular bone, Sariski does not like you saying irregular bone. He likes you to be saying multiform. Okay, multiform bone. If you say irregular, he'll shout at you and he'll tell you no, it's a multiform bone. Then you'll reply, I saw it in Sabota. He'll be like, no, Sabota is wrong, I'm right. So that's how he likes his terminologies. The next is mnemonic bone. And then one thing I didn't mention in my video, I just wanted to mention it, is sesamoid bones, right here, sesamoid bones. If you want more information about the bones and their classification, go on the video and watch it. If you have any questions, let me know right now. I didn't mention sesamoid bones in my video. So what are sesamoid bones? They're just bones that are found just close to the joints region. They're used for stabilization where tendons attach to it. And those bones are really very small and they're found, I think, on where the joints within your toes are, or in very specific regions of the body, just for stabilization. So make sure you know that there is also the sesamoid bones, type 6. Okay?
Yeah. Sorry, one thing I want to point out is Siritsky likes to ask about bones. Well, of course, now that you guys are doing osteology, there's like there has a checklist. Okay, so you have to say the borders of the bone. You have to say what type of bone it is. You have to say what it articulates with.
Yeah.
So if there's any joints, so let's say I got asked a nice question. The surfaces, what he asked me to say. He told me what's the tibia. Okay, and I was very shocked, but later I got to know that there's like a checklist. So when he asks you about bones, make sure to mention surfaces, borders, articulations, and what type of bone it is. Because if it's a long bone, he also wants to hear diaphyses and epiphyses.
Exactly.
Okay, so yeah, make sure that you have this checklist in mind because he will expect you to know all that.
Yeah, yeah. And like in the future, you will see a point that says tibia. When he says tibia, you don't just tell him where the tibia is or what it is. No, you actually need to dive into what the tibia does and have passion when it comes to studying every point of yours. And make sure when you articulate your speech, you are very confident about what you're saying. Okay? That's a very good point. Anything else, Kareem? Okay, anything else about classification of bones? Is classification of bones clear to everybody? Okay, it's very nice. That I don't have any questions so far, but please ask. I would love to answer them. This is your chance right here. Okay, classification of joints. Let's go to that. Where is it? Let's see. So it's on page 10. Okay. Joints. Okay. Quickly and swift.
Before you move on, there's a question in the chat.
Oh, I can't see that. Where is that? Okay. Sorry. Where is it? What is it? What is the question, Kareem? I can't find the chat.
It's on the chat. It says there's two questions.
Yeah.
One, yeah, it says, would you like us to unmute ourselves to ask questions or write in the chat? Please unmute yourself and ask questions. That's okay.
Yeah.
And you can also use the chat. So I think either way is fine. Can you please repeat what is on his checklist? So
Yeah,
nobody really knows what's exactly on his checklist, but there is some stuff that he likes to hear, like surfaces of the bone, borders of the bone, what type of bone it is, what it articulates with, which means what's it in contact with, if there's any joints that it contributes to. Okay, if it's a long bone, he wants to hear that it has diaphyses and it has epiphyseal plate. He wants to hear all this stuff. Okay, so yeah, but what's on his checklist? We just know that some stuff he likes to hear. What do you mean by borders? Borders is basically if we're talking about the sternum, then we have on the lateral border of the sternum, we have the articular cartilage of the ribs. On the superior medial border of the sternum, we have the clavicle.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and so on. And then
There's also just a specific answer to what the borders are. Sometimes let's say tibia. Okay, the tibia. If you take the tibia, or like let's say you take the humerus. Okay, or let's say the radius. The radius as a bone has a shaft, and this shaft has borders, 3 borders and 3 surfaces. So I've had this question from so many of you while studying about what does it mean that if you take a cross section of the radius, it's triangular, because it has 3 borders. So what does that mean? Imagine you have a cucumber, and you cut that cucumber in the middle. The cucumber will look circular, right? But if you take the radius, you cut that radius in half, the radius will look triangular. Why? Is because it has 3 borders and 3 surfaces, just like a triangle when you look at it through a cross section. That's what we mean by borders. And those things that Kareem mentioned, you have to know. Again, Kareem, so for example, you have, what is it? So the borders, the articulations, what else? What joints it contributes to? The epiphysis, metaphysis plate, like the
type
shaft.
of bone it is as well.
And what else?
What type of bone it is? What
Yeah,
type of bone?
what type of bone it is. So these things you have to keep in mind and study the bone completely. You know?
You got a question in the chat as well.
Yep, go ahead.
Can you see the chat, by the way?
No, I can't. But just tell me the questions from your side.
Okay. It says, can you make an example with a tibia? How to describe it correctly? So someone wants
Okay,
us to describe it.
Okay, the tibia. Okay, so wait, let me just. Okay, there we go. Got it. There. So the tibia is a bone, and this bone is found. Wait. I'm lost. So what was the tibia again?
Below the humerus, man. The femur. So you got the femur, you got the knee, and then you've got the tibia. The tibia.
Got you.
Yeah,
Okay, got you.
is the long bone. Yeah.
Got you. Okay, so the tibia is found where it's just below your knee. Okay, so the part of the leg below your knee, and the tibia forms part of the knee joint. Okay, so I would start by saying the tibia is a long bone. Okay, that's well known for it. It articulates superiorly with the femur to form the knee joint. Yeah, and no. So the tibia articulates with the femur superiorly. It has a tuberosity proximally toward near the knee. Then the shaft of the tibia is also triangular. It's made up of 3 borders and 3 surfaces. Then we go further below. The tibia is also part of the articulation of the ankle joint. That it articulates inferiorly with the, let's say, talus bone that is found inferiorly to the calcaneal bone. The talus bone articulates with the tibial medial malleolar process. So like you see, like all of those things that I mentioned about the tibia tells him that the tibia distally contains a malleolar, a medial malleolar process. And then it articulates with the talus to form the ankle joint. Then it has the shaft that contains a triangular shape. If we cut it in half, it has 3 borders, 3 surfaces. Then you can go even further to discuss the details of the knee joint and how it articulates with the femur. Now we can also mention things about the fibula, articulating with the tibia. How proximally and distally we have 2 joints: the tibio-fibular joint proximal, the tibio-fibular joint distal, and then here you've actually given him how the tibia is situated within the body and how it functions and how it articulates. Okay, so I don't want to take even further into this.
You've got another question.
Yeah.
Are there all exams in groups? And he asks us questions.
So the oral exams are not in groups, rather they're sometimes in pairs, not all the time though. When we had it, we've had the oral exams one by one because it was online. I think when you guys are going to be doing it, the oral exams within the semester is going to be, I think, I don't know, it depends on what he wants you guys to do, but usually it's in pairs on one by one. But you will have set dates for everybody according to their index number, and then they will take you there.
Yeah. Guys, make sure to unmute before asking the question because Haytham can't see the chat for some reason. So if you can unmute, it's fine. If you cannot unmute, you can put it in the chat and I'll read it.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, man, that you see like the tibia is just slipped, you know.
It's okay. Under pressure, everything happens.
All right. So next, classification of joints. Do we move on to this? Everybody?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
All right. Cool. Thank you for participating. Okay. Classification of joints. It took me some time to wrap my brain around this point. However, once I reached the end of my university, this is how I just go into joints. As soon as he tells me joints and classification of joints, I remember three groups directly. Three groups. Where are they? The fibrous type of group, the cartilaginous type of group, and the synovial type of group. Okay? So once I know joints, three groups directly. Now I go into each and every one of them and really know and study what those things are made up of and some examples of them. Now, make sure to know for type C, okay, and type B, you have to know for every type three examples for Swirsky within the body. Okay, he will actually ask you. Let's say a point comes up, synovial joint, and this was part of our issues actually. He asked us to do the joints, prepare the issue, and I think I've shared this on my Google Drive as part of my notes. For example, I had three examples for every joint. Okay, this is just the general advice in the beginning. So joints. A, fibrous. What does fibrous mean? It has fibrous tissue, and that's it. That's the description of it. So the joints are just the bones are joined to each other by fibrous tissue. Okay, and there are three types within the fibrous: the sutural, that are found within the bones that surround your brain. For example, parietal bones are connected to each other by sutural fibrous joints. That's an example. I put it down. I study it. I memorize it. Okay, you want another example? Every single joint within the skull is a sutural fibrous joint. So you can have three examples of this and you're good to go. All right, number.
The temporomandibular.
Huh?
Apart from the temporomandibular.
Apart from that one, okay. Good point, bro. Two, syndesmosis. What is a syndesmosis? It is, as I described, remember I said tibia, fibula, proximal tibiofibular joint, distal tibiofibular joint. The joints here are joined by syndesmosis, interosseous ligaments. Okay, now another example, the radius and what is it called? The radius and ulna. They have interosseous tissue between them, and they're part of the syndesmosis fibrous joint. So these are examples I put in, and I memorize them. Okay. Now gum fossa, straightforward gum. It's found near the teeth. Okay, fibrous joints. We're done. So that's the first step for joints. Okay. Next, I'm gonna move on. Cartilaginous joints, primary cartilaginous and secondary cartilaginous. The primary ones have hyaline cartilage. Okay, and hyaline cartilage are there's no motion whatsoever in this, and that's why they're characterized as a movement type as synchondrosis. That means there's no movement at all. For example, in the epiphyseal plate in the long bone, look right here, you see it, the tip of the bone and the shaft. There's an epiphyseal plate, and this is a hyaline cartilage. That part is a primary cartilaginous joint. So I take it down and put it and memorize it. Okay, for example,
It's synarthrosis, not chondrosis.
Yeah.
Unmovable joint is synarthrosis.
Yes.
And then, so yeah, these are other types of classification. You can classify it based on whether it's cartilaginous, fibrous, or synovial, or you can classify it based on movement, amphiarthrosis, diarthrosis, and synarthrosis.
Yes, like you can also categorize it according to movements, as you said. So now I'll just go over that later, but now let's just do it according to the three parts. Now, primary cartilage, I said, sign what, bro? Synhydrosis?
Arthrosis means that it's an immovable or
Yes.
very, very slightly movable joint.
Yes, exactly. All right, so that's primary cartilaginous joint, as I explained, for the epiphyseal plate. The next type we're going to go through is secondary cartilaginous joint, symphysis. Okay, here there's a little bit of movement. And what it's made up of compared to the primary cartilaginous joint is that it's made up of the fibrocartilage, not the hyaline cartilage. And this makes it a little bit more movable. An example of this is the IV discs within your vertebral column. And here there's a little bit of movement. How is because, okay, let's say in the beginning of the day, your vertebral column is longer, way longer than it is, not way longer, but a little bit longer than it is at the end of the day. Why? Is because throughout the day, your body weight is just squishing your vertebrae together. And that kind of intervertebral discs are allowing for that slight movement. And so when you go and lie on bed at night, like, and then you feel that tension release. Why? Is because the intervertebral discs are kind of allowed to spread again. So these are secondary cartilaginous joints that allow you to feel that. So remember this, okay? IV discs. And I think you can see a couple more examples in here. Now, the most favorite type of joints, according to Sersky, synovials. The synovials are very, very important, and he will actually really want 3 examples of each and every one, and you have to know them. Okay, synovials, let's go. Let me see if I can. I'll share that document with you guys later. I've got a very good summary of every joint and every like I've got a lot of examples for them. I'll just go quickly because we really need to move on. Plain joint, they're just plain. They just articulate like that. Okay, an example of it, bones of your hand, carpal bones. Pivot joint, pivot. It's a pivot. The joint between the proximal joint or the distal joint between the radius and ulna. Pivot allows our hand to move this way. Hinge joint is your elbow joint, for example, or your knee joint. The joint between, so elbow joint or knee joint, these are examples. They're hinge joints. They allow for extension and flexion. Okay. The condylar joint, let's say here, this joint right here is between the metatarsal and phalangeal joint of your index finger, for example. That's a condylar joint. I don't know what the ellipsoid is. I will send you my summary, but it matches. Just don't worry about the ellipsoid. I think it's okay. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exactly. We just took 6 as far as I remember from Sersky. Saddle joint. The saddle joint is an example is the thumb, carpal metacarpal joint of the thumb. That's a saddle joint. The clavicular sternal joint, the clavicular sternal joint. This is also a saddle joint. Okay, these are examples of the saddle joint, and it allows for a wide majority of movements. Okay. Sometimes to the point that they are also classified as a ball and socket joint. For example, the clavicular sternal joint, Sersky has said it, and we were always wondering what's the third ball and socket. He said the clavicular sternal joint between the sternal end of the clavicle and the manubrium. This is a saddle joint, but because of all of those movements involved within this joint, it's a ball and socket joint. Okay, it's also classified as a ball and socket. The last one is a ball and socket. It's straightforward, and your head will completely remember it when you just say it. Ball and socket. There's a ball inside a socket. For example, your shoulder joint between the humerus and the what was that, fossa?
The glenoid cavity.
Glenoid cavity of the scapula. This joint between the humerus head and the glenoid cavity of the scapula is called the ball and socket joint because it gives you a wide majority of movements, together with the hip joint between the femur and the acetabulum of the pelvis. Okay, these are all ball and socket joints. Now the third example is
You've got a couple of questions in the chat. The first one is an example of pivot joint. So is the neck an example of a pivot joint?
a pivot. Okay, you have to be specific. What type of which one or which joint within the neck is a pivot joint? You have to be
Yes,
very
exactly.
specific. And I'll tell you this. Okay, your head moves like that, right? So what's this motion? It's between the atlas and the skull. It is the atlanto-occipital joint. Why? Is because the head or the condyles of the occipital bone articulates with the atlas just to give us this motion. That's a pivot joint. Exactly. Good observation from the person who asked that. Next
Yeah,
question.
you got which is the third one again? Can you maybe write it in the chat? I can write it in the chat. Third, are you talking about the third type of joint?
I think he's talking about a third example of one of the joints.
Sheba.
Hmm.
Third, third.
I mean the third ball and socket joint.
Yeah, the third. So you have one, the hip, and then you have the claviculo-sternal joint between the sternal end of the clavicle and the manubrium of the sternum. That's a saddle, but because of so much movement there, classified also as a ball and socket. Okay. All right, good guys. Okay, let's move on. This is for the joints. Any more questions in the chat, Kareem? Okay.
No, nothing so far.
Okay. The structural classification movements of the joints, of the synovial joints. Here, you have to just know the structure, the classifications, the movements of the joints, just the way how I said it. When I said this, like you have to know all of those things and the movement terms. Like let's say supination, pronation, all of, yeah, exactly. I remember Sirski when he did
Yeah, a good way to explain is using your hands and using yourself, because it shows that you understand. Try to visualize what the name of the movement means relative to your body.
Exactly.
Supination, well, like hand would be like the equivalent of doing this. Pronation is in the prone position, which is this. Okay, and so on. Yeah. Man, wallah, you're the guy taking.
No, man, I think that was a good explanation from you. Okay. Next, okay, I'm gonna move on to this new thing. I've never seen it before, but I just got an image just to tell you guys, do not worry about those names. He's just fancy with them. There we go. So for this point right here, it's just an image where they insert a couple of instruments for them to look at the joints. And I think he wants you to look at images of them and how they articulate on maybe an x-ray or something like that. But I would advise to ask him because I think he would want to get that on the practical. Because sometimes he just randomly picks up pictures. Look at that, look at this, do that, the ocular image, if you remember, Kareem. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. You've got a question. It says, would you be able to say again what a saddle joint is? So someone's asking, what is a saddle joint? I get confused with it. So an example, like you said, the example of the saddle joint would be the thumb. And like its main action is basically like this. So you've got
Exactly.
like that, kind of.
Exactly.
It's like a saddle.
Exactly.
Like like a horse saddle.
Exactly. That's how Kareem did it. Is actually those two bones just come like that. Bone one, bone two, and they move like that. And with that movement, it just gives those two bones so much articulation around each other. That's a saddle joint. Okay.
Question, and it says flexion and extension and abduction and adduction. There are its movements.
Exactly.
Oh, okay, that's not a question.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I don't think that's a question.
Exactly. You see, like there's four
Okay,
types.
yeah, exactly.
Four type of movements, and those four type of movements allow for this joint to be to have a wide majority of movements, and then some of them, according to Swirsky, are said to be ball and socket. Anything else? Good. Okay. So
No,
yeah.
that's it.
Okay. So yes. So this is to continue the arthroscopic image of the joint. Arthroscope is just this instrument right here. Where is it? There we go. This one. They just insert it in, and it has a camera at the end of it for them to look closely at the joint. And he just tells you to look at those images. For example, to know them in real life, how joints look like. Okay. That's a practical way of putting it. That's a practical issue. Okay. Next, oh, sorry. Presentation of different types of bones and joints. I just said that. I think he just wants you to look more on the bones, on the joints, and how they're lined up together and around each other and how they move, because you will have a lot of bones and a lot of joints to look at. I advise, no matter what book you're studying from, always look at so many pictures and so many angles, and Google is your best friend. As soon as like you don't find a picture that you want to look at from a different angle, just type it on there and just look, and you will see it. The more images you look at, the better you are as an anatomy person. Okay. Next, anything else? Okay, let's go. Axial skeleton. It's quick and super easy. I have a short video on that. Don't want to waste my time here. Practical aspects of the vertebra. That's a very good point. We may have a lot of questions on there. I don't want to talk about it because if I go and into the vertebral column, I will never finish. So questions, please.
Unless someone has a question, of course,
Yes.
in which case you're more than welcome
Yes.
to write it, chat, or say it.
Yeah, I'll wait for 2 minutes on, no, not 2 minutes, but like I'll just wait. Let's see if somebody has a question on here. But wait, I'll just show you what I have for the vertebral column, and it's on a video on the YouTube. And I've gone through it very well, I think. Just give me a second. There. So vertebral column is on page, just give me a second, sorry. Yes, here, 17. Okay. Okay, for the vertebral column and everything he stated on there, study that video. Go through it. This one, right here. Everything you need. Okay. It's quite simple to know, and the video I've created is perfect. If you know this, you have a very good general idea about the vertebral column on page 17, right here.
Yeah, needless to say, guys, if you haven't checked out Haytham's videos, he's got videos explaining almost everything in anatomy, whether it's uploaded yet or not.
Yeah.
But he fills in the gaps that and answers some of the questions that you guys may have already. So make sure to check out his channel on YouTube. The link for it is on the resources group. So yeah, it's a very useful channel, very good resource to have.
Okay, mechanical movements of the thorax. It's quite simple. I've got a picture that you just need to know. It's also on YouTube. It's also on. I'll put it on the. Sorry, on the resources group. Where is that one? Yes, it's right here. Yes, so that's what he meant. That's the movements of the rib cage and how they. So in general, how does the ribs move in correspondence to breathing? How when you breathe in, it just expands up. When you breathe down, it pushes down. It's just a simple idea. You just have to go through it and you'll be good. It's not very stressful. I will move on from here. Karim, let me know if there's any questions at any point, okay?
Yeah, you've got a question, and it says, can we find the notebook you're using? As in, I'm assuming it's this book that you've got on right now.
Yeah.
Anywhere.
Message me about this on private. and we'll just discuss it on time.
All right.
Okay. Next, where's the syllabus? Holy crap! I'm so bad at this. Okay, there we go. Next, so we have the axial skeleton curvatures. Awesome. The individual vertebrae. Yeah, here. There we go. General characteristics, structure of the first vertebrae. There we go. This point right here is, for me, it was actually a pain in the ass. Sorry for the swearing, but yes, it was actually a pain in the ass.
You've got a couple of questions.
Yeah, yeah.
First question is, would it be, sorry, just a second. Would it be correct to say that the ribs move up and out when you breathe? Well,
Yeah.
breathe as in inhale.
Yes.
Yes. If it's inhale, then yes. And you've got another question. Hey, I have a short question regarding anatomy itself. What helped you guys study and remember the content itself effectively? I actually have a really funny story about this. Towards the beginning of the year, I was having a class with Wozniak, lovely guy, by the way. Anyway, at the end of the lecture, I asked, anatomy is not like any other subject I've studied before, and it's quite complex. So what should I use? How should I study anatomy? And the response I got was, well, this is a stupid question. I'm going to skip past that. But yeah, no, how I would study anatomy is, first of all, you have to pay attention in class.
Yeah.
Not that you're going to understand everything, but yeah, also use the Subota, Subota and more. And you've got the YouTube videos from Haytham's channel. What else? If any of you knows Ken Hub or something like that, that might be helpful. Google is very helpful. Teach Me, there's a website called Teach Me Anatomy. I've found it very helpful as well. And yeah, if there's any kind of website that basically shows you, oh, there was one for the pins, wasn't it? What's it called?
I think,
It was
yeah,
a
I have no idea, but we can find it and then
Yeah,
But like,
yeah,
let me tell you something, bro. For me, Haytham, yeah, how I study. I swear to God, I swear to God, I swear to God, my main resource was really type down what was happening in class, because I was a fast typer, and my professor was Sirsky, and I got every single word out of his mouth. Then went back home, YouTube, and looked at pins and pictures on Google, and that's the only thing I did. So you can go both ways. You can go all out, do all resources, Atlas, but I swear to God, for me, I didn't buy any book.
Yeah.
Kareem, he didn't buy any book.
Yeah, exactly. And you can also download some books for free.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
But you can survive with YouTube, I'm telling you.
yes, exactly. But you have to know what you're searching for, and you already have to know some idea. You have to have some idea.
Yeah.
Do you recommend Moore or Gray's as a textbook? Moore is clinically oriented, so it's more it's more inclusive of everything that you need to learn. And sometimes it will have stuff that you don't need to know, but it's good to know. Gray's, personally, I haven't used Gray's. I've only used Subota and Moore, so I've got no idea what's in there. But Moore is pretty good, especially when you use it in combination with Subota and YouTube. So yeah.
Exactly.
I use, yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Hi guys. So basically, my question is: Ken Hub or Amboss? Because somebody told me, I told them like, oh, I've learned so much from Ken Hub, and they're like, oh, Ken Hub sucks. You should subscribe to Amboss instead.
Well, nothing particularly sucks. Everything is helpful.
Everything, yeah.
Of course, you can learn something from everything.
Yeah, you guys already share with us the pins. I downloaded Anki because of it, and it was very good with the pins. It was really helpful.
Oh, thank you.
In the future, also we'll send, like, there's some pictures from the actual anatomy room, all the stuff that they're going to use for the pins. We can send that later. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, in terms of Ken Hub, or what was it? Yeah,
Amboss.
Amboss.
No.
I have no idea. I've never had Ken Hub. Amboss is free. I mean, it's kind of like weird to navigate through, but when you find something, it's very helpful. And yeah, just gather as much resources as you have, especially because you have Ambush for free. The university offers you that. So yeah, would you recommend the Sabota app that you have to pay for?
Ah,
Uh,
wait. I had that. I had that in the beginning of the semester. Um, I actually loved using it for about 1 month, but then when I found Anki's, it was actually way more better. Why? Is because Anki's calculates whether you went over a picture 17 times or not. So it will keep giving it back to you until it knows that you're good. So I always advise for Anki's way better than the app. Don't pay for it.
yeah, for those who don't know, Anki is a free application that you can download on your
Yeah. And
laptop.
we have an Anki's file that we shared with you guys. So just use that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Uh, anything else, Kareem? No?
No, nothing so far now.
Okay. Individual vertebrae. Go watch the video, but there's one thing missing in that video. Um, and I didn't well, I actually guided you guys to how to study it, but I have to stress it because he likes it. Come on. Here, for example, I'm just gonna randomly go and show you guys this specific thing. Okay. Where's my? There we go. Okay, so he will tell you. He will talk about specific vertebrae, right? So he will want you to compare cervical, thoracic, and lumbar. Every single part of the thoracic, lumbar, and cervical, you've got to know how they're different from each other. Okay, wait. So you have. What I will do is I'll just get off. I go here. I get a table of Google that summarizes them. So difference between.
Sorry, small question. Wait, you've got someone says, can we use Latin or only English?
Please use
And I've answered saying English is best,
English.
but
English is
yeah, I don't like if you answer in Latin. Well, first of all, that's impressive, but I don't think he would understand, right? But English is obviously best because that's
Okay,
what you're learning.
so guys, after that 20 minutes video of me discussing the vertebrae, it will tell you vertebral characteristics. And those vertebral characteristics, you have to firstly go over the general characteristics of a vertebral body, like their spinal processes, the transverse process, the articular process, the what is it? Yes, the articular process, and then the vertebral arches, and then the body. Okay, you mentioned that to him. That's the general characteristics. Now you go into the specifics of it. Difference between the different regions of the vertebrae and their features. So you have this table right here, sufficient for you. You have to memorize this. And I told you guys on my video to go and say, okay, table, cervical, thoracic, lumbar. And for each, just put the categories and separate them. And then you'll see how different they are, memorize them. That's it. You're done with that point. Any questions? Any questions, Kareem?
Nothing on the chat.
Okay, I hope.
I have a question again. I'm going to be very quickly.
Yeah.
So basically, the cervical, we have the groove for vertebral arteries, because I remember that Tomagawa told us Siriski wants to know this. He will like point out where the groove for vertebral arteries are.
Yes.
But then it comes to the groove for spinal nerves or something like this, and that's the C5. So the groove for the arteries or the nerves, are they only on the atlas and on C5, or do we have more grooves in the cervical?
I'll tell you. So you said the vertebral artery, right?
Yes.
Okay, look. So, sorry, look. But wait, let me show you. Cervical vertebrae. Okay, I'll show you where the vertebral artery passes. Why I know this is because we studied the course of that vertebral artery, which is part of the subclavian artery, and it goes upwards, and it rises from the proximal part of the subclavian artery. This is how much we studied, and I swear to God, at the end, wallahi, I said wallahi, I swear, that's me swearing in Arabic. You guys will be as good as us, I promise. But look, cervical vertebrae. Look, you see this part? Transverse foramen. The transverse foramen of the cervical part allows for the passage of the vertebral artery from the subclavian artery up towards the brain, which is part of supplying the brain with blood. Okay, and I'll show you vertebral.
Same as the spinal nerves as well. They also go through the transverse foramina.
Exactly.
Oh.
Vertebral artery, and I'll show you its course and where it passes. There we go. So he said, know that the vertebral artery passes through the transverse foramen of the cervical vertebrae. That's how it is. You see that picture?
Sure.
Vertebral artery. These are the transverse foramina I just showed you guys. And it just goes up. And they both join to form a basilar artery. Okay? So good so far? Okay, I hope.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Can you please explain more about atlas, like the first and the second cervical bone?
Oh, good question. I was actually going to come into that. It's right here, actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, you go on with this, but
Questions? Any questions?
sorry, no, nothing on the chat.
Okay.
I keep forgetting I'm muted.
Atlas axis. It's a good question that you've mentioned this, because I think there's a part of my YouTube videos that I need to upload that mentions those two apart, and I think I'll upload it soon. But this is it. Look, so atlas axis, okay? Just a general idea. The atlas is found to be the C1, and axis is found to be the C2. So how they are on top of each other is like this. So you see that the axis has a dens. This dens inserts and penetrates the space of the atlas. And this is how they articulate. And remember I said pivot joint? That pivot joint is because of the atlanto-occipital joint, where the occipital condyles articulate here. And they cause friction here. And that's how the head rotates. It's on the atlas. One advice about those two, please, calmly, respectfully, go and learn them carefully, because Swirsky loves them too much. And he spent so much time just talking about those two. And
Yeah, make sure, because they also have specific structures. They don't, you have lateral masses in the atlas. So these are not like the rest of the cervical. Okay, so learn the atlas and axis separately.
Yeah. I will try my best to make a separate video on this one. But spend enough time looking at so many pictures related to those two and study them carefully with the labelings and everything, so that when he talks about the atlas, you know what you're talking about. Okay. Yes. Any questions about those?
Nothing in the chat.
I
Oh.
just wanted to know that the dens, which articulates with the atlas,
Yeah.
is it connected through some kind of a joint? How is it connected?
Yeah, I'll tell you. So what happens is, you see this dens?
Yes.
It inserts right here. Okay.
Okay.
This part right here is just a ligament. It's not a bone. So when you look at the bones in your lab, you will see that this ligament is not present. But in reality, the dens is held tight on the atlas, like close to the atlas, is by the transverse ligament and a couple more ligaments, like the alar ligament, the tectorial membrane. Those things.
Makes the cruciform.
Yeah, exactly. Those things hold that dens and keep those two together, because those two are the main important ones that hold the whole head on top of the spine.
Yeah, it's a ligament made up of other ligaments. It's called a cruciform ligament. It's like a plus sign holding the dens of the axis onto the atlas. So it's very tight. Yeah, ligaments atlanto.
Axis. You can just
So
show
it works like a lubricant kind of as well, for it to like pivot.
Yeah, like it's just a ligament. Of course, it will be lubricating because it has to allow for a vast majority movement. But look, that's how it's fixed together. These are the ligaments, and you are going to be studying those in the future. See what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. It's fine. Don't worry about the ligaments now. Just worry about the bones and their features. That's it. Okay?
Thank you.
No problem. Any other question before we move on? No, yeah. Wallahi, I understand. I understand. You guys will be awesome, I promise you. Okay, next, sacrum and coccyx. Sacrum coccyx, what are they? Sacrum is the end of the vertebral column, and basically it's made up of 5 fused vertebrae. Fused means one, 5, but in one body. It's not like the, let's say, cervical made up of 7, and they're made up actually individual 7. No, it's made up of 5, but they're joined together. So you see the sacrum as a one body. Okay. Coccyx is the end of the vertebral column. Let me just get out an image here, right there. Look, sacrum, coccyx. Sacral, 5 fused together forming the sacrum. Coccyx, 4 fused together to form the coccyx. And that's it. You just have to know that they're like this, and then they're the end of the vertebrae, and they're very important ends. Okay. Any question? Awesome. Next, the skeletal framework of the thorax, ribs, and sternum. Okay, here, who has questions? I need questions because I know what I should be discussing. If you don't have questions, I know exactly what I need to be saying. Okay, so you don't have questions. I will dive into something that is so important. Okay, why I'm getting out on Google? Because I love pictures, colored pictures. I just love to get them up. Look, you have to know how ribs articulate with the vertebral column on the posterior end, and how they articulate with the sternum on the anterior end. Let me just show you something very clear to make your learning easier when you learn about the part near the vertebra. So I put pictures here because I know that you guys might have doubts about it because I spent so much time studying that one. Okay, that's the rib. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Demifacets. All right, that's demifacets. That's the stack of vertebrae that I want to show you. That's the rib head. Just get them on the same page. Rib motion. What else? Stack of vertebrae. Yes, I think we're good. All right. Now we're gonna be talking about the rib ending connecting to the vertebra on the posterior end. Okay. So vertebra, every vertebra has demifacets. Remember, vertebra has demifacets right here. Ribs have articular facets right here. Okay, how do they articulate with each other? To know how they articulate each other, we have to look at the stack of vertebral column and see how it attaches to them. Look, right here, I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, there we go. It's not very clear, but okay. So demifacets are okay on let's say this one, the superior one. It's on the bottom one. It's on the inferior end and the superior end. Here, superior end, inferior end. Okay, but the rib attaches on demifacets of 2 different vertebrae. Look, 1, 2, right? Those 2 articular facets articulate on those 2 demifacets. Any questions? Is it clear?
Yes.
Awesome. That's the first. Is there a question?
Just pointing that be careful all the time because it's an hour, it's been an hour, and we don't want to.
Yeah, we're almost done. So demifacets right here. So you have that's the first part where the rib articulates. So it will articulate with its with 1 second. So connects to the transverse crossing the same number. Yes. So it will articulate with its same number. Let's say rib 7 articulates with T7 vertebra plus T6. So it articulates with two vertebrae. That's the first part of how it joins the vertebra. There's a second part, it articulates with the vertebra. That we're not ending. So we have two joints in this posterior end. This part that articulate the rib articulates its head that has two articular facets with the two demifacets of the two vertebral bodies. Second part is through the transverse process demifacet. And this transverse process demifacet of the same number of vertebrae as the rib articulates with the articular facet of the tubercle. Any questions?
May you repeat the last part about the articulum facet of the tuberculum?
Okay, so you mean this part, right?
Yes.
Okay. We got this part articulates with the bodies of the vertebrae. Now we are talking about not the bodies of the vertebrae, but we're talking about the transverse process of the vertebrae. Okay?
Ah, okay. Okay,
The
yeah.
transverse
Thanks.
process of that T7 articulates with the articular facet of the tubercle. And those 2 points are where the ribs articulates with the vertebra. That's the attachment on the posterior end. Okay?
But this is only in one point, right? Not in 2 points like with the articular facets.
Yes, 1 point exactly. Good observation. Exactly. There's one articular facet, two articular facets on the head. Okay?
Okay, thanks.
No problem. And then that's the vertebral part. Now, what happens on the anterior part, on the sternum end? How does it articulate? Let me show you. Ribs articulate. Look how Google is awesome. Articulate with sternum. And I look at it, and I look, and I see, and I study. Okay, let's see. Where is it? Okay, so here, for example, ribs with sternum. And you see, let's just get at sternum demifacets. Okay, there we go. These points are for attachments of different bones. Here, remember I told you, claviculo-sternal joint, that's where the clavicle attaches to the manubrium or the manubrium of the sternum. Here, sternoclavicular joint forms here. Okay? Next, attachment of rib 1, easy, just to the manubrium. Now when we get to rib 2, remember, demifacets. It's not a facet, it's demifacets too, but on different parts, the manubrium and the body. Rib 2 attaches here, there, okay? The sternal end. Rib 3, rib 4, rib 5, rib 6, and then rib 7 again, demifacets, okay? Or articular facets here in this case. That's the attachment of it. And that's what I wanted to mention for the ribs. Any questions? Okay, good. Bony landmarks, it's easy. I talked about it. I think they just want you to know the bony features of the vertebrae itself, like the articular process, everything, all of those things related to it. One thing I can remember that they really stress out this point that C7 is a protuberance. Like if you touch your neck right here, you see a protuberance, C7, because of its spinal cord, spinal process.
Prominence. So when you touch the back of your neck, you can feel like go smoothly like this, and you can feel something sticking out. That's the prominence.
Exactly. So joints of the axial skeleton, just watch the axial skeleton. What is it made up of? And then you would have to know the joints of the axial skeleton. But I think he will go over all of those with you as you go through the semester, because I think later on I see some parts of the axial skeleton down there. So don't worry about it. Joints of the vertebral column. Guys, look. this is a very, very, very nice look. It's hard to study this point, but I love this point so much because once I got it in, I could never forget it. And fortunately enough, I have created a separate video for it. Quickly, I went through it, which is actually nice. You just need to look over um, YouTube, over pictures. But this is it. I'll show you what I meant. Hope I can find it quickly. Yes, right here. There we go. I've gone over it on my YouTube channel. You can actually check it out. But this is what you need to know for those joints. And I literally got this point on my oral exam for osteology. He's like, joints of the vertebral column. Start. Okay. The first things I remember, just kind of easy, IV disc, zygoepiphyseal joint. Okay. And then I stopped. I was like, these are the only joints I know. And then he knew I worked a lot. Like, I'll tell you about surgical later. He told me, okay, what about ligaments? Okay, there we go. So he also wants ligaments to be mentioned when he talks about joints of the vertebral column. Because if you think about it, those ligaments form a form of joints because they're always holding that vertebral column together. So just quickly, IV discs, right here. You need to know what an IV disc is and where it's found. That's the first type of joint. Anterior longitudinal ligament on the anterior side of the body. Posterior longitudinal ligament on the posterior aspect of every body in the vertebral column. Zygoepiphyseal joint I just mentioned. Accessory ligaments of IV joints. You have to know every single name of the ligament and you'll be fine with that. Ligamentum flava, interspinous ligament, supraspinous ligament, nuchal ligament. When you look at the pictures, you'll find that their names are descriptive, so you will never forget them. Finally, as I told you guys, and we talked a little bit about it today, atlantoaxial joint, atlanto-occipital joint, we talked about them a little. And then one of you guys asked me, how are the atlantoaxial joints joined together, or like the atlantoaxial joint fixed together? It's by the ligaments that I told you about, transverse, I showed you. And then we went, I was like, tectoral, alar, longitudinal, the crazy picture. These are the ligaments that should be mentioned. That's the vertebrae. We're done. Finally, thorax. I've explained it really well in my video. These are the joints, everything you need to know about the joints of the thorax. But just look at pictures. And once you look at pictures, I promise you that you will remember them. Like, because of that picture, you have a mental image, and that mental image will guide you to just say the name of the joint. How? For example, I look at the picture, I see costo-transverse. Costo is the costal cartilage, the ribs itself. Transverse is a transverse process of the vertebra that I just showed you. I actually discussed this right now. Let's say costochondral. Costo is the rib. Chondral is the intercostal cartilage. So it's the joint between the cartilage and the sternal end of the rib. That's how I know from the name. And yes, you have to know every single detail about this, the type of it, and what it articulates. That's it for the content, and I think we have covered all of it. I would love to answer any questions if there is any. Kareem, is there any questions on the chat?
Nothing so far. People have asked for the document, and I told them to message you privately.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can speak more about that. But yeah, nothing on the chat. And yeah, this is the last chance to ask any questions. Of course, you can message us privately on WhatsApp, and of course we've got our own things, but we should be able to reply most of the time. And yeah, this is the last chance to ask any questions. If you've got any, would you be able to do these more often? Because it really helped a lot. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think like we'll try to make it a regular thing, of course, but bear in mind that we also have our own second year stuff.
Yeah. So what we'll do is like, okay, so let's say here you have 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we see 1, 2, 3, 24, maybe somewhere around the 22 or 22nd, just to cover, no, yeah, maybe just around the 25th, just to cover these contents when you guys are done with it. And hopefully, a third video after that, and then you guys will be good to go for your OS or like a webinar. Yeah, for sure, guys. We can do it.
Yeah, one more thing for chemistry. I'm getting the second lecture ready, but the problem is I cannot find the presentation from the teacher anywhere. And if any of you guys has the presentation or recording or anything that might help, then please send it to me on WhatsApp so I can base off the chemistry explanation off of it. So see if there's anything that you guys struggle with. So yeah, please send me the presentation or the recording on WhatsApp. Thank you.
Okay, this is the end of our webinar. I just wanted to say that I wish you all good luck. I know sometimes this can be very hectic for you studying this, but I promise you, you're gonna love this subject. Other than that, stay focused and don't hesitate to reach out to your friends, to your colleagues, to your teachers, even us. We're here. And hopefully we can always be there of good help for you guys.